And good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It's good to see you all here. Welcome to episode 124 of New York Red Bull Discussion Group, the podcast. I'm Garry Redmond. Pleased to meet you all. Greetings and salutations at your service. Well, this week was more of a good news, bad news sort of week. On Wednesday, of course, we're going to talk about TFC and how we were able to run roughshod over a bad club. And then we're going to talk about Atlanta, which ended the week in a very bad and frustrating loss for everyone involved. Of course, we're going to take a couple of weeks because it's an international break as we get ourselves ready for Columbus Crew on Decision Day. That game is on the 19th, not this Saturday, the other Saturday. Plus, we have our good friend Joe Pantorno from New York Sports. He's going to come in with us after the break. We're glad to always see him. Plus, we're going to review, of course, nephew, all Gotham FC and New York Red Bulls 2 action, all the hot takes, of course, from the live audience. I see you guys logging in as we speak. Always good to hear you. Can't wait to hear your thoughts, especially about New York Red Bulls 2. We're going to bring that question to the forefront after the break. And, of course, naturally, if you missed the live show, which is going on right now, as always, you can able to catch the recording. We're also on live on X right as we speak. You can catch it on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goals.tv and Spotify.com. And as always, our episodes are uploaded the very next day. And of course, we want to make this show one of the best ones out there. And this is where you guys come in. Let us know how we're doing. We appreciate any feedback, good, bad, indifferent, what have you, so we can able to go better and get better every episode. So please drop us an email at rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. That's rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. Well, now that that's all said and done, let me, of course, look and welcome one of my co-hosts who are here today, the one and only Nick Lianos. Miguel Nunez, he'll be showing up very shortly. He's currently on, backstage. He's getting himself ready. So, as I said, Nick, this was a good news, bad news kind of week, right? Wednesday, went up in Toronto. Everybody was dreading a loss, but something happened. They actually beat a bad team for a change. I mean, it was something to behold. I mean, this is what happens. Imagine what they would be if they did that, all season long.
Toronto is a remedy for every time we see them. We have one loss to them in the last 14 games. Perfect result. Perfect remedy for all our problems.
Can we play you every week? Yeah. Can we play you every week? Well, we can't. So.
I said it wasn't the greatest field. It wasn't the greatest game, but they got 4 goals. They got a win. They looked pretty good for the most part, and you finally got a good contribution from Lewis Morgan, who's been pretty much missing in action for last 10 games.
Goal and assist. That's what we need.
Goal and 2 assists. Forsberg looked a little creative, starting to come into form. No injuries, came out of the game unscathed. Perfect. What you wanted. You got up there, you beat a bad team, and you walked out of there uninjured, happy with the result, and coming back, going to Atlanta.
Before we even talk about Atlanta, let's talk a little bit about, of course, Toronto versus Red Bull New York. Now, Forsberg, who started in that game, he scored his 7th MLS goal this season, his first since May 29th against Charlotte FC. Yikes. Okay, he's been out for a while. You said it yourself. You said it yourself. If he had been healthy all year, would we have a different record? Yes or no?
Oh, yes. Definitely. We would have finished more games and we had more goals. Instead, we wouldn't be looking for those goals that we couldn't score, because he would actually set it up better. That's what his job is. His job is to be a playmaker, and he's shown that he can do that. And he's always in the right spot. So he's always, throughout his career at Leipzig, with Sweden, he's always found the way to get in the right spot to bang home a goal. Look his best game against LAFC. Right spot, right time, bangs in a couple of goals.
It was his second career MLS match to record that he recorded a goal and an assist in the same match. 2. So imagine if he was healthy, maybe it'd be more than 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Here's hoping that his second season with the Red Bulls won't be like his first, and hopefully he can able to stay healthy. Tolkien, he got a goal, right? That's his second in the season, his seventh in his MLS career. Tolkien has scored 7 MLS goals in his career, tying Steve Jolly, which happened to be Matt Harmon's radio mate on Red Bull Radio, for second place in franchise history for most MLS goals scored by a defender for this particular club. Morgan, he got on the score sheet, like you said. That's his 13th goal of the season, 34th of his MLS career. He tallied his 5th and 6th assists of the season, recorded his second career MLS multi-assist match. Of course, this was done against Toronto. Now, Morgan moved into second place in franchise history with most goals scored by a midfielder, or he's a striker. I digress. A midfielder this single season with 13.
We don't know
He's
what
also, speaking of 13th, is most people look at the number 13 with dread. Not so here. He also became the 13th player in franchise history to record 20 plus goals in MLS and 10 plus MLS assists for the club. I wish there were more guys that can able to put in that particular stat, but you can make the case that he's would you say you make the case that he's basically the team's MVP?
When healthy, yes.
When healthy.
When he's been healthy for our team, he's been our MVP, correct.
Sixth midfielder in franchise history to accomplish the feat. Morgan also passed John Wallenick. Man, this guy's just stacking records for 8th place in franchise history for most MLS goals scored by a player with 27 at his time with Red Bull. And in the 3 career matches at BMO Field. Okay, this is what you and I talked about off screen, before we went on air. Toronto FC is sick of this guy. Okay, they're tired of him. Every time they see him, like, oh no, not Morgan again. And here's the reason why. Get this, okay? Get this, Nick. In 3 career matches at BMO Field, Morgan has recorded 6 goal contributions, 4 goals, and 2 assists. They're sick of him. Every time he terrorizes them. They're sick of him.
That was, I think, game 2, like 2 years ago, when Klimala had the 3-assist game, and he kept laying them off to Morgan. Morgan banged in 3 players.
Yeah, Morgan.
Yeah, that was the game. I'm like, yeah, okay, I remember Morgan loves playing up there. Good for him. He likes Canada. Why wouldn't you? It's a great
Manuel, who everybody was holding their collective breath when he was on the breakaway and got that goal. He scored his 8th goal of the season, 13th career goal. He has scored in back-to-back matches against Toronto FC. Sean Nealis, he made his 133rd third MLS appearance for the club, which moves him into sole position of 4th place in franchise history for most MLS appearances made by a defender, passing Jeff Park. Nice. And finally, goalkeeper Carlos Coronel made his 126th appearance for the Start, which passes Tony Meola for sole possession of 2nd place in franchise history in games played and games started by a goalkeeper. He also tied Tony for 2nd place in franchise history for wins by a goalkeeper with 48. He also passed him in franchise history for most minutes, 11,340. He also recorded 6th victory Toronto, which is the most he's ever seen in a single MLS club. Another guy they can't stand. Okay. And and of course, Forsberg has missed his first start in June 8th against the New England Revolution. And of course, at that time, the Red Bulls extended their unbeaten streak against Toronto for 12 matches across all competitions. The Red Bulls are unbeaten in 5 straight matches at BMO Field. Unfortunately, the good times did not last. As soon as they went down south to Atlanta, on that hard turf they called it, a fantastic facility, which is known as Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Our good friend Anthony Jarrett went down there to see, personally. They went up against a very desperate team, which happened to be Atlanta United. Now, you did a terrific piece, did a little preview on them. There were some things about Atlanta, about the Red Bulls you liked against Atlanta, but there were some things that you did not like, and it came to fruition. What did we learn after the final whistle, Nick?
Reyes cannot play right back. That's number 1. Please don't put that man out on right back ever again. We found that out the hard way. It took Atlanta 3 minutes for him to go, oh look, Reyes, no, let's go right by him. And set up like for the first five opportunities were right because Reyes is exposed on the wing. We also found out Dylan Neal's can't play against Atlanta either. Well, I'm not going to go off on the card itself, but
Okay, I'm sure others have, but go on.
the card I thought was harsh. I didn't think it was. I don't think it was a right. I thought it was a yellow. I don't think it was a last man opportunity, but the ref called it. And then after the ref called it, we melted, which has happened too many times with this team. A bad call goes against us, and we turn around and turn it to putty. That shouldn't happen at this level. It happens too many times with this team. That's going to happen a couple of times this year. A bad result, a bad play, bad result, bad call. Everybody lost their minds, and it led to the penalty, but given up by Noah, which yes, the other guy did grab your arm, but and he did make it obvious, and he did fall down with it. But you put yourself in that position for opening your hand and grabbing him. You were very too grabby beforehand, and you luckily didn't get a call before. And everything after that just went downhill, and we're struggled again. Again, turf, a place that we actually have done well there, but it's turf. We don't do it somehow or another doesn't fit our style. We, we
Okay, what do you mean it doesn't fit your style? Because to a lot of fans, that sounds like an excuse. They look at Atlanta, they look at where they are, and they look at where we are, and by some metric, we should be. I wouldn't say we should be wiping the floor with them, but at least should beat them at least about 2-1 or something like that. Because the midfield looked
look at
disjointed. I mean,
played us-
Atlanta was just simply going right through these guys.
yeah, we played a 5-man back, which was because of the short turnaround. We're not wanting to burn anybody out. We didn't start Forsberg. Short turnaround coming back from the injury. We made a couple of adjustments. We threw all three center backs into starting, and no one looked comfortable. And the minute when no one looked comfortable, everybody was scrounging to figure out where to go, what to do, and it took 20 minutes before we actually put Harper back to right back and moved Reyes slightly inside to calm things down. But when you did that, Doncor, who was actually in the first 15 minutes, was threading balls forward, and you could see him pushing the play. He was finding Van Zier, finding Harper on the wing, pushing the play forward. There was no outlet. There was no play. The only outlet he had left was Van Zier, and it was Van Zier against three people. That's an event.
He was in the box all night,
and that was the end of it. And that was the end of and that basically we survived the first half on very good last second defense because they were just flying right by us because of the space that we're giving them. And we made a couple of Tolkien made a good save on the end after he was called ball watching, and he ran over, pushed the ball out of bounds. It was a great save by Coronel off a curler. I don't know how he saved it. He pushed it out of bounds for a corner. We survived the first half, and and Sandro made a couple of good adjustments to shorten things up. Took Reyes out, brought in Dylan, and we started playing better. And then the right card. The first play, well, you remember Harper walked into he had two shots we could have walked right into, and just Atlanta gave him all the space, and he only took the one shot. Take the shot. You were doing that all year. And then you decided not to take it. Take the shot. And then the red card happened. Then the penalty happened. And we're down 1-0.
And then things just simply went downhill from there. One of the things I asked the coach was a concern of mine and everybody else, to be frank, okay, was the team's cohesiveness, the consistency. It seems that almost every game, regardless of who's in the lineup, it's not the same team. You got the team reacts differently to different opponents, and the cohesiveness. I mean, you figure that okay, most of you guys have played together for a long time. And this is the one thing, Nick, that we talked about a lot is that, okay, after a while, you should know who your guys you're playing with, right? I mean, you know their strengths, you cover their weaknesses. That hasn't happened.
No.
Uh,
There's something missing. I don't know how to explain it. There's like that awareness of where all right, I got the ball. I know he's going to fly out to push the play. I don't need to slow it down to go forward. We always stop. I don't know why we do this. Tolkien does it a lot. Edelman does it way too much.
Way too much, right? And he winds up getting trucked because of it.
And the anyone that doesn't do it, the younger ones, is Hall. He just my ball's here. All right, I'm gone. See ya. I'm not even thinking. And Dunker gets the ball and he goes, okay, and I'm seeing two things where to go. I'm gonna take the best option, and he goes. The rest of us slow the play way too down.
Goma is the same. Yeah, he takes the ball, go. I mean, and off he goes.
Off he goes. Stroud before he got hurt would take the ball and he knew where to go, especially when he was playing centrally. On the wing, a little different because I don't think he's he's not really more of a wide player. But when he was inside, he knew exactly what to do with the ball. Ball on his feet, he knew where to go. Too many times we slow the thing down for no reason whatsoever, and it hurts the team. And it didn't show up against Atlanta, but other teams it did show up against. We got a.
There he is. Oh, scared me there, buddy. I was like, where's my rat man?
I don't know what happened. I clicked on the link you sent and it was going nowhere.
Okay, that's something we need to, that's something we need to talk about. Okay, you're just coming in basically at the right time. We talked about certain players, they know what to do when they're on the pitch. You talk about Goma, when he gets the ball, he's gone. When you talk about he's gone. I mean, they take the ball and they know what to do with it. There's a lot of guys that take the ball and they stop right in the middle of the field and go, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. What I talked about is the cohesiveness, okay, of the team. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? You guys will be playing with each other for quite some time, give or take a few new guys here and there. What is keeping you guys from understanding what you're going to do with the ball? And more importantly, why aren't you moving off from it? Do you see that as well, Miguel? Does that also drive you batty? You're saying to yourself, hold up, you should be here, not here. What's going on?
Listen, you know what? It does drive me batty, they should be like pressing at all times, okay? This is what they do best, okay? Also, I mean, can Elias Manuel not learn to be not offside? I mean, come on. He would have had 3 goals there. Give me a break here. Okay? And have you talked about the ref at Atlanta?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm sure.
Come on, man. Come on. Okay? MLS. You're clowns. You're clowns.
I mean, I was saying to myself, okay, if they call this offside, I'm going to just lose it. I'm like,
I said that on the I go,
okay.
they're going to call this offside. I know it's coming because they're pausing it for no reason. They're going to pull this back, and after that, I'm done. But I'm going to sit through this because I want to see what's going on.
I said to myself, come on. I mean, we've seen guys shoulder to shoulder. Probably he was ahead by maybe I don't know, half a toe. They called it. I'm like, it just didn't make sense to me. It really didn't.
Might have been a toe offside against thing, but the replay they shows Edelman already kicked the ball. So how's he offside?
Right.
Yeah, there was one time there, Garry, that
he was offside on. That was clear and obvious.
Yeah,
that was fine.
That one was.
But the first one, there was no reason. First of all, it was called on the field of goal. You have to have clear and what's the wording called?
Clear and obvious.
Clear and obvious.
Yeah. There was no clear and obvious mistake made. It was called on the field goal, where you have to show clear evidence that there was offside when Edelman kicked before he kicked that ball. And when you see the play from afar, Edelman had kicked it, and he's shoulder to shoulder with the guy. A toe? Give me a break.
Yeah,
You can't go that back.
it definitely changed the momentum of the game because
Guzan was stunned.
yeah, because just when just when everything was going for the Red Bulls and that momentum got snatched, everything fell apart at that point, and I just sat there and said, typical.
You push.
Typical. We can't win for can't win for losing. Typical.
You push.
I,
You push for that tying goal. Of course, you can give the when you push everybody forward. You push 9 guys forward. You're gonna get abuse coming back. That happens. But the only thing I could come away with Atlanta was Serge Nagoma scored a very good goal. He got around on it, made space, went near side. His first, I couldn't believe that because it's his first goal in 810 days. 810 days. This kid's been hurt that many times. He's been missing for that long. 810 goals, 10 days between goals. Wow. 12 years. Jeez.
I mean,
what about that red card? What about that red card? Did you guys think that was a last man red card?
No,
I didn't.
I mean, from what I saw from the many angles, is he passed him and just simply his arm was out and he grabbed his arm and then just fell. Basically, I didn't see any force from him being dragged down or anything else. He's he saw an opportunity. You can remember he got fouled in the back the last time, and he was looking at the ref, and he dove basically, and everyone in the building knew it. Okay, so but this time I guess it was close enough for the ref saying, yeah, that's a red card, that's a penalty, and I just said, okay,
no, but I'm talking about where I don't think he was even in the box. Okay.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't in the box.
He wasn't in the box. Right.
Dylan Neal's was deemed to have foul, like last man foul. Okay.
But
go ahead.
If you sorry, Miguel, if you saw the replay, the ball hit off his chest. Dylan hit it too. Dylan hit the ball after the ball had rough.
Right.
So there should have been. It should not have been anything besides a yellow, especially since he cleared the ball out. And that's why I'm like, why are you rushing? Refs got to understand the situation of the game. I don't think the ref took that into account. That is not a last man, especially since if you look to the left of, if you see the angle when they show the replay, you see Noah's head in the picture. So so how is he the last man? Yeah,
I didn't think he was the last man either.
No.
Okay, but
it was a bad display of refereeing.
Yeah.
He lost.
I mean, I wish I could able to, well, of course, it was that, the refs also had help. We put the team put themselves in a situation where these calls were going to basically happen. But it seems that many of these calls throughout the season, I said, going back 2 seasons, it seems that for some unexplained reason, whenever VAR, goes in our way or not, it seems that these calls happen at least 60% of the time, and it goes against us. So it really hurts. Okay, when the momentum gets shifted because of one blown call. I mean, I couldn't, for the life of me, I just sat there stunned for about maybe 10 minutes, and I said, "Oh well, I guess we're not going to win this one," and then we just, lick our wounds and get ready for decision day on the 19th. And it just didn't make a lot of sense to me and eliminated a lot of sense for a lot of people. So the final score basically was us: Atlanta United 2, New York Red Bulls 1. Moranchuk with the penalty in the 75th minute. Wolf killed it, and of course 7 minutes in the extra time. Goma, he got in also extra time, 14 minutes in. The one person who will not be joining us, of course, on the 19th, of course, will be Dylan Nealis, who received the game's only red card. What really kills me is that if you look at the shots and the shots on target, guys, 6-2. We didn't do very much with the ball, which goes to your point, Nick. I mean, guys had the ball and didn't know what to do with it.
Oh, didn't. I'll tell you, the first we missed the one glorious chance that we had in the first half in the 15th minute when Donkar found Venzier quickly went right to Harper coming crushing in, and Harper's shot pass, whatever that you want to call it, if it was a shot, it was a pass, got blocked by Guzan, and Carvalho picked it up and tried to back kill it in. How does that not score? We got unlucky. But that was our best chance of the first half because we were, after that point, Atlanta just took the game over. And I was like, okay, they don't know how to handle Mascara. They don't know how to handle Mascara. We're going to just keep feeding him the ball. And we basically we're running, we're diving, last second defending, last thing, we're getting it, blocking balls, but running out of from bad positions to block it and getting into corners, giving up corners for everything.
Hey, also one more thing. I want to talk about. I want to talk about that phantom penalty, Garry and Nick. Come on. I mean, if you look at the replay, and I mean, you could pause it.
Yes.
That guy wasn't even touched, man.
No, he was.
Okay.
No,
how do they go? How do they go and look at that? Oh, and say that's a clear and obvious penalty. You know.
They called it because Noah extended his arm, even though the guy grabbed him. They both grabbed each other. They hooked each other. They both hooked each other. So the rule. It goes to they're never going to say it officially. It goes to the offensive player, but it's going to go to the offensive player. And they call the penalty. And they're going to have to figure out how they're going to call it back. That's the one thing they shouldn't have called. They shouldn't have gone to VAR for. But the goal that they called back, Manuel's goal, they should never have gotten to VAR for. That was the obvious thing. I don't know why you went to the VAR. If you call that a penalty, there's no way you can overturn it. The only way you can overturn it is if you flop. If he went down before Manuel even grabbed you. And he didn't. So you couldn't have overturned it. There was no reason to look at it. That said, listen, it's a bad call. We shouldn't. We put ourselves in that position because we didn't do anything.
Yeah, it just all things considered, the loss was a very bad one to drop the team to now 7th place, where we were in 4th almost maybe 2 weeks ago, but because of circumstances being what it was, when it's all said and done, we only wound up with just simply 3 points out of the entire deal out of 3 games. That's never going to get that done. I think the story of the year, of course, is drop points, and that is driving everyone nuts, not just the fans, but most of the writers, and we're all wondering, of course. How a team is supposed to be this talented. I'm not going to even say this good, okay, but this talented, you're having issues with cohesiveness, you're having issues with the run and play, you're having, nothing was consistent all year except maybe this. Okay, drop points all over. I think that's going to be the Red Bulls' issues going into the playoffs, which is probably the reason why folks are having a dim view. Some cleanup, of course. Goma, of course, with the only goal in extra time. That was his 3rd career goal. His first is July 24th, 2022 against Austin FC. Stroud, he tallied for his first career MLS assist. Captain Emil Forsberg, who recorded his 5th MLS assist of the season. He's now got an assist in back-to-back matches, which basically goes why he was basically the missing man all season long. Imagine if he was healthy all year long. Imagine how many assists he would be racking up left and right. He has now 3 goal contributions in his last 2 matches. Carlos Coronel made his 127th start for the Red Bulls, moved him past Steph Stamler for 9th place in franchise history for most starts for the player. Lewis Morgan, he reached his 10,000th career minute in that match. Sean Nealis reached his 11,000th on 60 minutes. He passed Jeff Park for 4th place in franchise history for most MLS players by a defender. And, of course, naturally, he made his 100th career MLS appearance. Now, for the entire week, now, Miguel, Nick, I'm going to go with you on this one, Miguel. You didn't have a positive feeling going into this week. Okay, 1 win, 1 loss. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that because I predicted a loss up at Toronto. But apparently Toronto is like the crappiest team in MLS. they couldn't take advantage.
A team that the Red Bulls should beat.
Well, yeah, but I was giving them the advantage because they were playing at home. The Red Bulls are going away, okay? But even that, but you know what? I will say that Toronto should have taken a chance or two, which they did not. Thank you very much, Derek at the end. And I guess they really do suck that bad. Okay, so
supporters they were having a cow after the game, man. They just they just flipped their lid instead of cursing at every guy coming toward them. I mean, the supporter section over with the Red Patch boys, and they were not too happy. Like, what are you doing here? You stink. Get out of here. I don't want to see you. Take off this shirt. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, those guys are serious. Good.
Even one of their Italian DPs wanted to hit the showers early, man.
He lost his cool. No,
I think he did it on purpose. Yeah. This game, forget it.
Bernardeschi, I would kill to have him with the Red Bulls.
Right.
I'm serious. I would kill to have this man with the Red Bulls. He does not look happy there.
No.
He ain't happy. He wants to get the hell out. Preferably back to Italy, back to Serie A, but no team. Well, I'm not going to say no club would have him, but make him an offer. Make a trade. It's not like we don't have young guns that to send up there. Make a trade. Okay.
Yeah. Also, and then Garry, then we go down to Atlanta, and they weren't world beaters either. Okay, we could have taken some of that down there, man. We could have taken a point. I don't know how
almost hit.
I don't know what good that would have done us.
No, the point, if we got away with a point in Atlanta, I think it would have been great for the morality.
Okay.
Because
let me ask you this: I know that we've secured 7th place, right?
Not quite.
Or 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
So then, if we win against Columbus, we could possibly take 6.
We need a Charlotte to drop points.
Charlotte, and who does Charlotte play?
I think it's not Montreal's playing. I had it before.
We have to.
Basically, you need to take care of business at home.
Who needs a draw? Who needs a draw?
Okay, yeah. So we have to take care of business at home. We have to depend on other results, which it's not an awesome spot to be in. Okay, but what happens then?
Best of 3?
What?
Best of 3.
Best of 3.
Right.
But we don't get. We got 1. Okay, got it.
We only get 1 home game instead of instead of probably 2, which we had the opportunity. But no, all you did really was lose a home game. You're back where you were last year. That's exactly where it is.
If we get 6th spot, we still lose a home game.
Yeah,
got to be top 4.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Got to be top 4.
We'll get Cincinnati at that point, and if we lose, we get Columbus. Columbus is clips in 2nd. Cincinnati's in 3rd.
Right.
4 to 7.
6.
4 to 7 is yet to be determined. 4 to 7 is yet to be determined. 8 and 9, the play-in is most likely going to be Philly and DC. Both need draws.
Okay, Philly and DC. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Montreal and DC. Both need draws. If Montreal and DC get a point, they're both in. Sorry, Montreal and DC.
But they got to play that play-in game, right?
Yes, they'll play that Wednesday of. Wednesday or Thursday.
DC and Montreal. Before we talk about the playoff picture, and before Nick gives you guys a little preview on Columbus Crew, we got Joe Pantorno standing by in the virtual green room, and he'll be joining us very shortly after the break. But here are the final scores of Week 37 of Major League Soccer. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay, one more week to go. But before we do that, we've got an international break. The gentleman over on my lower left, not a lot of people know him, but he is kind of famous, of course, on Press Row, Red Bull Arena. He's quite the guy. Of course, we're talking about Joe Pantorno. He's AM New York's beat writer for the New York Red Bulls. And we discuss things a lot before the game, during the game, and in some cases after the game about the Red Bull stuff that you guys really don't hear. But you guys don't think that we have conversations about the team sometimes, down and dirty. You have no idea. Joe, welcome to the show. This is your debut. How you doing, man?
Guys, I'm doing well. It's quite the honor, Gary. I've been hearing all about this. I've seen you on Press Row doing all your work, so it's finally nice to see behind the curtain in a way and be a part of this.
Okay, this is of course to the folks over the audience. And, if you have some questions for Nick, let them have them. We'll read them, of course, on the air about the team and everything else. I'm going to start with this one. We talked about cohesiveness. We talked about the team. For some reason, it's like we see a different team every week. Now, we've seen some of the best teams out there, like Miguel News's beloved Arsenal, and of course, Nick Liano's and his squad. You have that distinctive style, and they never stray from it. But yet, it seems that this team seems to do things differently, sometimes to their advantage and sometimes to their detriment. Your thoughts on the season so far?
Yeah, so it's sort of been like a mirror swap of last year, where everything kind of went wrong in the first half, and they scrambled and clawed their way to the playoffs in the second half, and they started off really hot this year, and they sort of nosedived. And you don't want to put the entire onus on one player, but to think that it all came about when Emil Forsberg was lost, that's the way things sort of coincided, where you're trying to not so much grasp at straws, but to find reasons of why a team that was so hot at the start of the season has only picked up 3 wins in their last 17 MLS matches. It sort of defies the whole, there's just one problem with this team. And I know, again, I'm still fairly new to the beat, but you've kind of heard this whole Red Bull way thing sort of drilled into your cerebellum for years, right?
Right.
But that's the thing. This looks like a team that just doesn't know how to stick to one particular tactic or system or style. So, of course, then it leads to the question of, you're looking at the coaching, where is it coming from? And there's so many moving parts and so many things that have happened, and injuries and transfers and international breaks and absences. It's just sort of been this hodgepodge of mediocrity really for the last 3 months now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that I know it drives the supporters nuts, but it also drives us nuts because we want to, write the glowing articles about these guys. Hey, come see the Red Bulls, and this is why. And then we see what's going on, and we go, maybe I better retract that idea. Miguel, I know you got you're formulating a question. What's your question for Nick tonight? For Joe tonight.
Well, Joe, first off, I must say that I love the Moving Pictures album right behind you. I'm a massive Rush fan myself. That's my favorite album. Okay.
Right on.
All right. So, my question to you is, not even as a beat writer, as a fan, what do you think the chances are of the Red Bulls advancing in their first round in the playoffs, knowing that they lack the home field advantage in the best of 3 series? And from what our conversation from before you came on screen, we're going to get either Columbus or Cincinnati. Yeah, go ahead.
So, it gets to a point in your career where when you are on Press Row, you kind of have to put that entire thought of fandom to the side.
Yeah, we got no choice.
and it obviously forces you to look at things as more of a realist, and obviously you don't want to be that kind of fire and brimstone, doom and gloom kind of person that predicts the end of days. But just by looking at the straight facts of how inconsistent this team has been over the last 3 months, how they haven't been able to get it back, and really the crucial time for them to show something was when Forsberg returned. And obviously, it wasn't enough in the NYCFC game. Obviously, that was his first game back. The Toronto game maybe showed you a little bit. But this is the point of the season where when you're playing teams beneath you in the table by a considerable margin, you have to beat them. You have to pick up. Yeah. And to lose, that's a significant red flag. So now you're kind of left here wondering, well, can they show enough in their last game against Columbus to suggest that they can give them a series in the first round? Because personally, I mean, you're looking at one of the best defenses in the league. You're looking at a team headlined by the probable MLS MVP. Actually, I just handed in my awards ballot, and I literally put Cujo Hernandez as my MVP this year.
As did I. As did I. I mean, and we're talking about a player that up until he showed up at Columbus, no one didn't hear of. No one. Yeah. But now he's taking the league by storm. I mean, he was basically sitting in the Mexican leagues, basically in obscurity, and then he comes to MLS, he becomes a superstar. So I understand why a lot of fans say, okay, why aren't you digging in that garden over there and bringing up a jewel or two up here? But it's not an exact science. I basically excoriated the team for not doing very much in the transfer window. In fact, all you got was a loan. And so far, after a couple of games, he hasn't been much. I mean, he's been basically a bit player. I'm sure he's, I'm sure Caballo he sold you, I'm not going to go so far as say he sold you a bill of goods, but there's nothing that makes me go, wow, this guy should be starting. This guy's basically carrying the team. Most Uruguayan ballers that I know, they do that. They say, look, let's go. I'll show you guys how it's done. He sounds like a middle-of-the-pack guy for me. Vincent Escobar, one of our esteemed colleagues, of course, he has a question, but a little slightly different. They do have a couple of DP spots going into the offseason, Vincent. What do you expect to happen in the transfer window? We're talking about the winter transfer window. This is for you, Joe.
This is always such a tricky question because, in theory, the Red Bulls have the resources and the geographical advantage to sort of sell New York City to be in on practically every potential big name that's even considering heading to MLS. I think the Emil Forsberg move was sort of the, I guess it was sort of different to what the mindset has been. This team has been married to the process or the thought of developing its young talent and becoming an MLS contender this way. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that it hasn't worked. And how long can a franchise go and preach patience to their fan base when, sure, you can boast 15 straight MLS playoff appearances, but it's been 5 straight years now you've been bounced out of the first round. So what do I expect? I don't expect much until proven otherwise. And I think I'm not the only one thinking that. And there has been some, I can't speak for the front office, obviously. But there have been some efforts here and there. The John Philippe Gbamin deal that fell through. But again, is that really that much of a difference maker? And then there's, again, Garry, as you mentioned, sort of the promise of saying, hey, we're bringing in somebody who was capped by the Uruguayan national team. Like, there is something here who could bolster the midfield when, we parted ways with Frankie Amaya. There's all sort of this promise, but again, it's just not coming together. So I'm gonna probably annoy some people when I say expect more of the same. But at this point, that's all you can really do until they really, kind of drop the hammer and surprise us all.
Nick, I'm sure you have some questions on your mind. Go for Joe. Go for it, man.
Hey Joe, what's going on? Question I have is, what's your first year of Sandro? How do you think he's done so far?
I'm sorry, who was that? I missed it.
First year under Sandro, how do you think he's done so far adjusting to the MLS?
That's a tough question too, because it's given the roster that he has on paper. When you do go into a season with a fully healthy Emil Forsberg, a fully healthy Lewis Morgan, some really young, promising American prospects that were expected to take that next step forward in their development, whether it was John Token, whether it was Daniel Edelman, you would expect this team to sort of be in the conversation of, I would say, probably top 5 or 6 in the East. And I know there were a lot of prognostications that sort of had them lower going into the regular season, and that's fair. They have to prove something to really show that they're worthy of being in that conversation. That being said, I think there has been a decent amount that is left to be desired by him. I do think that there is a lack of urgency at times with this team, and none more so than in the NYCFC game where they slept walk for the first 20 minutes, and then when they were punched back in the mouth, that was it. There was really nothing else to it. So it obviously lends to the question of, is he motivating his team enough? Is he getting them, ramped up for these big games? Judging by the performances, judging by the demeanors, I can't say for certain that he is. And obviously, they will tell you something else, and he will tell you something else, and they're obviously going to say that they're not worried and that they're ready for every game and they do the work that they need to do. But I'll be cliched here, it's one thing to talk the talk, it's another thing to walk the walk. And there has not been a lot of steps taken lately.
One question, of course, is coming from our friend Travel Pass. I don't know why he keeps using that name, but we'll just go with that thing. He wants to know why Tolkien and Edelman's games seem to take a step backwards this year. Is it a change in the system, tactics, or just the players just simply not playing up to potential? Joe, I'm going to let you answer that question. I'm going to follow up with my answer on this one. But go ahead.
By all means, yeah. This is I think a lot of it does have to do with a change in scheme, a change in tactics. Again, these are players that kind of came up through the ranks. They've had, I hate saying this, I hate it. They've had the Red Bull way instilled in them. But yeah, I mean, I think that has been sort of a major roadblock. I think also when you are pulling people out in the middle of the season and competing in the Olympics, and they're playing with a completely different set of teammates and a completely different system, and maybe on a roster with a lot more promise than what they have now. It's to each their own there, obviously, but I think it's important to sort of give a little bit of grace to people who are this age, especially when we're talking about maybe blue chip prospects here. But you can't necessarily compare them to other young prospects elsewhere, obviously overseas, but also here, because every team's philosophy is different. And I hate to kind of use the whole sophomore slump term, but there are sometimes hangovers when you do progress with some of these younger athletes who have sort of burst onto the scene, and more so Edelman. His rise last year was incredibly meteoric, and it might have been almost unfair to suggest that he could maintain that upward trajectory, where we're thinking, in 2 years or 3 years he'll be called into the the senior national side, and he'll be an anchor in the midfield. It's hard to do. There's still obviously a lot more learning to do. I also think, at least on John Token's front, I think there is something to be said about the consistent transfer rumors that have sort of hovered above him. There have been clubs from Germany, per se, that have reached out. We don't know specifics. Been trying to hammer down something on it. couldn't find out which team. So there's obviously that to contend with, and that's a completely different animal. Again, when you've been sort of stable in this system for as long as you have something or somebody come along and kind of shake it all up, there's going to be an acclimation period. But I can understand why there is some disappointment there.
Hey, let me ask you in regards to Tolkien. Some people have surmised that his form taking such a huge dive has to do with Frankie Amaya no longer being there. Okay, and would you say that the fact that Frankie Amaya was sold off in the summer at around the same time that Forsberg was injured, does that have like a massive, a big thing to do with how the Rebels just plummeted to the earth like a lead balloon from high in the standings to like barely getting into the playoffs now? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something to be said about sort of disbanding that chemistry, and like you said, it sort of seemed like in an instant, the Red Bulls midfield ranks were just like depleted in a blink of an eye. Where it was Amaya, Peter Stroud was injured, and Forsberg goes down, and scrambling heading into the
Stroud, and I mean these were pieces that got them to in the first half of the season, Joe. They really have been doing pretty well, and then you had international call-ups, you had international, you had injuries and such, and this was the sort of thing to answer, to dovetail to what you said before. It's something that I circled with a big fat red pen. I said, okay, this team isn't deep enough. It's okay for you to go out and get that baller. Okay. Forsberg is no doubt, he's the real deal. Okay. The issue is that when you take a player that is surrounded with world-class high talent, okay, and then you put him in a team that is less so, you're the one that's going to have to carry all the weight. And then in some cases, in his advanced area in his career, he may not be ready for that. And this is the reason why I said out loud, and I got practically chided for it. This is not enough. This was not even close to being enough. I don't mind having Forsberg. I've seen him play. Nick, you've seen him play. Yeah. He's a terrorist. Okay. The man knows how to beat teams. Okay. Yeah. This is a team. This is a guy who single-handedly grabbed Leipzig, RB Leipzig, by the scruff of the neck and got them to win not one but 2 DPL Pokal titles. You don't do that by being the guy, and you have better talent around you than what you have here. So I'm thinking that when he saw an opportunity, when they told him, "Hey, come to Red Bull New York," and he was like, at first he was like, "Hey, okay, let me see what they got." Then he saw what he saw, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna try to make this work. I'm gonna go for it." He's a baller. Okay, he's not the type of person that's going to spend 1 year and go, "You know what? I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay with it." No, he's going to do his thing. He's going to do his contract. But if I'm the Red Bulls, fellas, if I'm the Red Bulls, you better surround that dude with some other ballers like he. Okay, or you're going to lose him. No offense to all the guys currently on the roster. No offense. I love those guys. I like those guys. Joe likes those guys. But when you're talking about every team in the Eastern Conference, I mean, Toronto is it's every team that finished dead last or just about last this year, they're going to stack up next year. And what are you going to do sitting on the sidelines and letting all those teams bypass you like you did again? Are you going to stack up as well? Are you going to let things slide like you did in this last transfer window? Because right now the fans have their knives out, and they're not going to be very patient very long. That's my concern. And this is the thing that, as people have mentioned, you never got a replacement for these guys. You sold these dudes, and never mind that we're going to be in their last season or not. They were going to leave anyway, Joe. But where's the replacement? Where's the backup? Red Bull 2? I mean, no offense to that system, but that's not enough. Okay, in this league where every team in this conference is stacked up, you didn't. You did not. And we see it game after game after game after game. Now, of course, Joe, you and I sitting up there, we can't afford to be fans, but I guarantee you, we hear it all around us. Okay. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. We sit back and go, damn, you know what? They're right. I mean, and what can you do? Okay, I have to wear my frustrations on my sleeve because I like the people running the club, but I just don't like the way they run the club. But that's another decision for another day. The one question that's another question for another day.
That's a good one, Gary.
I mean, but like,
how deep they are. Look it up.
I know a lot of people think, "What the hell did you just say, Gary?" I'm like, "Hey, I like the people. I like the people on the club. I just don't like the way they run the club. I'm sorry. I mean, that's
the greatest, Gary. We gotta put that on a T-shirt, right?
What do you want? I like you guys. It just don't. I mean, I don't trust you guys to run a neighborhood club. The way you guys are doing. Speaking of course, New York Red Bulls 2, they played their final game of the season, and of course, it was a tie, but they lose in penalties 7-6. Watson in the 5th minute, Dembele in the 68th, and then they go to penalties. Remember, on MLS Next Pro, they go straight to PKs, and their last game ends pretty much with a point of each other. That's their last game of the season. You will not see those guys until 2015. So you won't see those guys till 2024. How hard they fallen from 2015 since I followed them to right now. This was supposed to be a program on the rise. They produced guys like, Aaron Long, Adams, and so on and so on and so on. And so far, there hasn't been very much of a consistency. So I asked the group guys this particular question before the show starts. And I said, now that the New York Red Bulls 2 season is over, how would you grade the players, the coaches, and the season in general? More importantly, and this is to everyone, including you, Joe, should the development program be vastly improved next year or scrapped altogether? Joe, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, you'd like to think that they bought themselves a little bit of a grace period because, like you said, there have been some really good young products that have come out of the academy, and there are still some young players who, again, they've sort of taken from, and you potentially see a path to MLS. I don't know. This is one of these questions where you kind of have to, I don't want to say play the wait and see game, because I think there has been a pretty noticeable step taken back. But in that same breath, maybe this is sort of the kind of result needed to push the powers that be up top to maybe move the first team in a different direction, where they say, okay, you know what, maybe the pipeline isn't as sustainable as we think it's going to be. We're not getting our franchise striker that, again, everybody's been pining for
since BWP hung up his boots.
That's that might be kind of the kick in the pants that they need, where, again, the question before, what they might do over the winter, maybe that's going to spark them in that direction. But I wouldn't say it should. I don't think it should be scrapped altogether. I think there really needs to be something disastrous, to use that word, but maybe just keep it in a holding pattern for the time being. Maybe.
Nick, your thoughts? I mean, I see you rolling your eyes. That's a question. Go ahead, man.
No, it's not like the academy hasn't produced players. We do have Julian Hall just sitting there. He's on the team at 16, and you do have his tag team partner and Tanner Rosenberg about to come up. You have these kids. These kids they're 15 and 16. I think the problem is with the MLS too is they're playing 15 and they're playing 18-year-olds. They're not on the right. They're not in the right league. I think the mistake was leaving USL.
That was my number one complaint. If you remember, Nick, I was like, why did you? Okay. I didn't understand that. I was like, okay, you know what? The only team that's sitting there left is the DC United club, Loudoun United. They're still in USL. Are they going to ever be champions? No, but they're going to have players who are a lot more MLS ready.
Yeah, I think
than ours.
I think that was the biggest mistake we've done because playing against 18-year-olds is not really benefiting you. What are you benefiting? You're playing 18-year-olds. It's the academy against the academy. Okay, that's nice. You are going to see future. I went to the Cup game and watched the NYCFC game against RB2. I got to watch Miguel and Hall play in front of me, but that's not what you want to watch. That's what you want to watch in the academy level, not in a tournament setting, not in when you're trying to produce kids. You want these kids to play against someone more established guys that are fringe MLS players or
grown-ass men.
Up there got didn't get a break, blew out their chance, got injured, they're trying to build their career back up. You want to see against those guys. We're not seeing that. I think that's hurting the team too. But as the academy is going forward, we do have players, and it's not like we don't have players down there.
We do.
They're all 15 and 16, so I can really say they're really players when they're 15 and 16.
Miguel, you've hung out with a lot of parents. You've been watching a lot of the Red Bull 2 games back in the day. I believe you have a son, a family member, also playing. I guess not the academy, but within the system. You've harped on this.
My son used to play at the PDA Academy.
Yes, thank you.
Play the Red Bulls.
Yeah. They would play the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
You've said this many times. There is a lot of talent in the area, but Red Bull has a hard time grabbing these guys. Is it because they're being ignored, or is it simply too many academies out there for a kid to ply his trade on top of college?
Well, the thing when my son was a youth soccer player, the Red Bulls would like the best players. Yeah. Like after a season, this guy's the best player on that academy. The Red Bulls would take him. The chief. How could I say? The thing that people talked about was that they made him play a certain way where there was no creativity involved. I don't know if you guys would have the same opinion as watching. It's like pass, because they play a certain way. It's all boom, 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 boom. Like a lot of guys wouldn't be on the ball, looking to play creative balls. You know what I'm saying?
No technical skills?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. You know what? Maybe, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say this to you. The one of the top youth guys to come out in the last few years, I'm going to say it, Brian White, okay? He's a forward, okay? And he played with our team, as a matter of fact, and then he was in the PDL team at some point, But that kid came out of PDA, okay?
Okay.
The Red Bulls didn't snatch him. It was afterwards. He went off to college, and then when he come home in the summer, he played on their PDL team, okay? And look at that. He's having a pretty good impact at Vancouver. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's strange, but the Red Bulls Academy does have a certain way of playing, and it goes all the way to the top. Okay. That's how they want to play. Press, run, press, and get the ball upfield, and boom, in for a scoring opportunity. Does that encourage creative skills, Gary? I don't know what to say.
No, they don't. I mean,
I don't know.
you and I have said this more than once. You need players that can have a well-rounded game and not just simply bits and pieces. I mean, because some of the stuff that we've been seeing with the team, with the first team, even with the Red Bulls too, makes me want to scratch my head, and so in some cases, make me want to punch a wall. But that's the fan talking to me. The media side of me is disappointed because once upon a time, this academy system was one of the best in not just the league, but in the nation. And somehow it slipped. And my fingers are pointing directly at our two sporting directors, Joe Schneider,
Okay.
and of course, the other guy, which we haven't seen very much of, which we will talk to him sure at season's end. Guzman, thank you, sir. Julian Guzman, who I happen to like, but it's almost like he's second banana to the top banana. Long
You happen to like, but you don't like how he runs the football team.
Pretty much. I like this guy, just don't like how they run the team, and it's not personal.
That's a go.
Speaking of Gotham FC, they're on a roll, by the way. They went up against Bay FC is one of the teams that just got in this year. They are a expansion team, and Gotham FC is stacked with talent and stacked with Niswanger, Lavelle, Gonzalez scored twice, Kitzer in the 84th. One person scored for the AFC. They will take on Chicago. They're on their way. They're on their way to take on the Chicago Stars next week, and I think their season ends 2 weeks after that. So people want to know, okay, how good is Gotham FC? Pretty good, pretty good. And they're on their way to third place, and who knows? They'll probably have a whole game. Remember, top 8 teams wind up in Gotham in WNSL's action, and it's all one and done. So they're looking for their title defense and see where it goes right here. Our next game is on the 19th. Of course, naturally, there will be a break in between. That's where our next show will take place on the following Saturday and following Monday. Of course, our good friend Anthony Merced will be joining us with his final edition of Red Bull Download before running into the playoffs. Joe, the spotlight is yours. You have the final word. Tell the good folks something that they don't know about the Red Bulls during your travels with the team as beat writer.
Holy moly, something they don't know. I feel like everything that I know, I immediately tell them.
Didn't expect that curveball, did you?
Wow, curveball. Something they wouldn't know about the Red Bulls that I've learned about on my travels. Let's go with, let's see, what don't they? Oh, okay. I grew up in the same town as the Nealis brothers. Went to college with Sean at Hofstra University.
Strong Island.
Covered the team with Richard Nuttall, his head coach. And we share a love of All American Burger on Merrick Road in Massapequa. Other than that, everybody's very nice and they treat me very well. And for somebody who is really just kind of starting out here on the beat, because I am just smack dab in the middle of Major League Baseball's postseason as we speak. I will be.
And the Mets are losing right now, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Yanks are losing. No, I will be at Citi
There
Field.
you go.
Forget about the Yankees, man.
There we go.
Mets, all right? Thank you.
There we go.
I will be at Citi Field the next 2 nights.
All right.
But I was always a baseball guy, but the Red Bulls have been so wonderful to me that we adopted Red Bulls coverage. And I am always of the firm belief that everybody deserves their chance for coverage, which could not be the same philosophy for other papers in New York City. So I'm very glad to have hopped on when I have. Very thankful to have met some of the people that I have. And I know this isn't some sort of juicy tidbit or information, but I promise you this off season, when I find out things, you will be the first to know.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic, of course. Don't be a stranger, my man. You're always welcome here on the show. Of course, they say this is your first visit. Don't let it be your last. Of course, we love to have you next time. And of course, like I said, we will be taking a break. There'll be no show next Monday. As always, when it's all said and done and dusted here, the show will be rebroadcast, of course, in its entirety on demand the very next day on YouTube, on a YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course on X. Right now, it's also you can able to play that as much as you like. Just simply go to RBDG NYRBDG the podcast. You can go to see this episode. You can play it with this Infinity, of course, on Spotify, which is our home. Whew. I mean, man, as they say, what a week. It started out as a good news, bad news, but then we take a break as we get ready for show. Of course, naturally. Week 38 appears, and then that's it. Off to the playoffs. So,
where anything can happen, Garry. Where anything can happen.
Well, I'm hoping to that case. I'm hoping it's not the same. Joe Pantorno, thank you very much for joining us tonight. For Nick Lianos, Miguel Nunez, and myself, Garry Redmond, thanks so much for you guys for joining us this hour. Appreciate I appreciate your support and everything else. Go take a break. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Come on, you Gunners! Thank you. Come on, you Gunners! Right.
Oh, of course we got to get into the obligatory Gunners shout out.
Thank you.
Well, as I said, fun will begin. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks at Red Bull Arena. Hey, it's going to be not only that Anthony will be joining us, it's also Supporters Week. We're going to talk to our guys who have been Viking Army and, of course, ESC, what's like to be a supporter, and they're going to have full reign to talk about, including, of course, the New York Red Bulls. Until then, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night and goodbye for now.